Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Blacklist. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we are picking up where the last episode left off. Obviously, Reddington's panicking because Yvonne Stepanov got kidnapped, and obviously the question is, well, who grabbed him? Obviously, the number two suspects are either Elizabeth or Townsend. Neither is a good option for him, so he's trying to get people, gathering up the people necessary. He tried to get people, I guess, someone in Russia to kind of, like, help, but it's like, he couldn't get in contact with who he's trying to get in contact with, so it's like, okay, when you do get in contact with the person, tell them they're off the payroll. Tell them they're off the payroll. And so Reddington turns to the one person he can under these circumstances. It's the FBI. At the same time, we see Townsend is torturing Stepanov, and it's like, essentially, it seems like basically he's making him kind of go through what he goes through on a daily basis of basically like almost like this, sort of like the condition he has is like this lucid dreaming. It's like, he says, it's like being on acid without the acid. That basically you almost have like these hallucinations and stuff like that. And so I guess maybe after the trauma he went through, it kind of awakened this condition in him, and maybe he's kind of in a constant state of it, like almost like every fiber of his being just kind of constantly in flux because of it. You know, thinking about what he saw that night, having his children murdered in front of him. 'Cause, I mean, he broke it down, and like I think he said, like, was it like his oldest was already dead at the time. His other child was like there to die in front of him, and then like his wife had to watch all of it, and then like his wife, I think he said like they slit her throat, but I think if I remember correctly, he said like they basically sliced her body up, you know. So, and the entire time he was begging and pleading, and obviously he wants to do the same thing to Stepanov of like, tell me all you need to know about Red. Like eventually he's like, this condition will get to the point that you won't be able to stop talking. So the fact of the matter is, all I got to do is just keep pushing and pushing, and it's only a matter of time before you break and tell me what I need to know. So Reddington hits Cooper up about like, all right, you got to help me. Well, he kind of gives him information about Stepanov. Doesn't avoid saying anything about the relationship. Just like, oh yeah, like essentially saying like, hey, he's someone you could capture. Like he's got some interesting info, because at the very least, it's like, even if it means like potentially putting him in the FBI's hands, it's better than him being in Townsend's hands, because that's going to be a lot worse. So, because Dembe kept being like, yeah, we could get, people, we should handle it ourselves, but like, Reddington's like, we don't have the manpower necessary to go up against Townsend right now. I think like in a short amount of time they need to gather forces and stuff like that. It's like, no, we're gonna need the might of the FBI who can jump onto this really quickly like that. So obviously Cooper bring this back to the team, but then you have Aram bring up some interesting developments. That's it's like, oh, that he is a traitor. It's like, it's like, yeah, but what will this Stepanov prove to us? It's like that Reddington's a traitor. It's like, yeah. Maybe he's like, he's like, yes, there's a possibility that Reddington, Mr. Reddington is in 13, but the thing is like, maybe like the thing is like, at the end of the day, what's this going to do? Connect him, because it's not going to really be able to connect him necessarily to being some like Russian spy, because we've always known him to be the criminal that he is, building this network and criminal empire. And it's like kind of suggesting that maybe the connection to Stepanov is where we've gotten the over 150 blacklisters that we've taken down. And it's like, begs the question, like, Reddington might not have come up with that information on his own, his connection to, because it turns out later on, like, Stepanov and him, obviously, they've brought it up before, but they're longtime friends, so he's probably the one that probably sends Reddington the information and kind of points him in the right directions, maybe. Or maybe it's just, because I've always just been under the assumption either, like, Reddington just uses his own networks to do that, which, I mean, maybe the argument could be Stepanov plays a part in that, but it's like, it seems like whatever their planning is, their quote-unquote end game, it's a project they've been working on for the past 30 years. What that is, I don't know. My point was, like, I always just assumed Reddington pulled the blacklisters out of him, just because I'm sure there's some he knows just from the course of doing business, but also probably like who knows, some of those connections might be like, oh, he's telling these stories, but they're probably Stepanov stories of being like, oh, how Stepanov knows some of these people, or maybe it's just BS, because you never quite know like what it's just, because that's always my thing. I've always said Reddington never lies, but it's like, maybe it's like I've never said, and all the stories he tells, it always makes you wonder, like, how much is that true? And I think all of it is true, because I don't think Reddington does 100% lie. I think last episode might have been, like, one of the times even he'll admit, like, I lied. Like, I won't always tell you the truth, but that was probably the first time I've, like, outwardly lied to a certain extent, So, but nevertheless, The FBI ends up calling up Liz, and Liz is like, I don't have Stepanov. I thought you had Stepanov. No, I don't have. We don't have Stepanov either. Then that means Townsend. But how? They find out Wrestler's phone's been bugged. Obviously, Priya is still trying to kill Townsend. Obviously, trying to play coy, and she's really good under pressure. I guess part of being a thief and everything, knowing to kind of be calm under the even most stressful situations. But it's like, right, she's trying to manipulate Townsend into drinking the coffee and everything, like by being like, yeah, you told me to wait, and it's like he's trying to put her in a position where it's like, I do want you to work for me. I'll pay you a shit ton of money, but basically, this how the relationship works is that you work on my schedule. So, and she's like, well, I'll play coy. I'll not. She's playing coy and being like, oh, like, well, fine. I'm yours. And sadly, Liz shows up in time just to knock the cup of coffee out of his hand, just so little centimeters away and a few sips away from death. So Liz inadvertently saved Townsend. The irony behind it, I know, in many different regards, especially the way the episode plays out, but we'll get there soon enough. But now that Liz sees that Townsend has him, it's like, okay, so now that this is the case, Liz was kind of like, oh, like, I'm not, like, yeah, like, this was kind of part of agreement, but also it's like, okay, Stepanov's in front of us, we both can get answers. Now also, no more contact with the FBI. So they move on, do their thing, and obviously, at the same time, Reddington figures, he's like, all right, I have no choice, like, especially when Priya calls him up about, right, Stepanov, it's like, damn it, they've got him, Townsend's going to torture him for information. It's like, all right, I got to go to the FBI. I'm going to be as open as possible without telling too much. So it's like, right, I need you guys to help me because Stepanov, he's very important to me. He's an old friend of mine. But it's also, he brings it up, Stepanov knows a lot of stuff about me. And it's like, because at first they're kind of like, and then like Cooper kind of pieces it together because it's like, because for him it's like, if Stepanov talks, it's going to be bad for not just me, but Liz and kind of everyone in my circle of influence because he knows everything. Which makes you wonder, like, you'd assume, my assumption always prior to this was like, and it also makes you wonder, like, how much did Kate know? Kate knew where all the bodies were buried too, but like, how, like, would they segment it and like, it's like, does Stepanov, is he where the buck stops? Is he the one that knows everything, and did Kate and Ilya know, like, about Stepanov? I don't know. You assume so, but you don't know who knows how Reddington's operate. Like, they're part of this operation and everything, so it's like, at least Kate was being kind of like his confidant and his right hand, so you would assume she had to have known some idea. I assume this was going to include some of the stuff that she was going to try and expose, like the body she left for Tom, ended up being the real Reddington and everything, so. But ultimately, Cooper ends up figuring it out by being like, wait, the fact is that this isn't just about you being in 13, your connection to, like, the Russians. This is about why you're in Liz's life in the first place, like, why you surrendered to the FBI, like, why you implanted yourself so directly in her life. And Reddington doesn't say anything, but yeah, this all trails back and connects to Liz. So on his way out, the FBI is doing what they're doing. Like, obviously, they're going to make their way over to the building and try and find Townsend and stuff. But on the way, Priya lets him know, like, yo, they're leaving. And he's asking her to follow them. Just, like, don't lose sight of them. So, at the same time, the FBI does raid the building. But obviously, it's like a thing of, like, it seems like a normal business. And ultimately, when they first get there, like, alarms get set off. And Townsend's right-hand people are making sure data drives are deleted and destroyed and papers are shredded, that there's nothing left. It's like, okay, and I wonder, is that why Home Dude waited till the very end to be like, okay, if I decide to talk, he wanted to probably, like, if he probably didn't want to come off too eager because he probably figured that'd be suspicious, but it is interesting that he happens to talk just when it turns out that there's nothing left for the FBI to find. So he probably wanted to give them enough time to be like, yeah, could we keep stringing this along? It's going to be more of an issue. There's only so long we can distract them. It's like, so either he is someone that's just like, legitimately, I don't want to get in any trouble, so I'll help you. It's like, it's just interesting, like, if that's the case, like, why wait till the last minute like that? So I feel like he had to purposely wait until they got most of it deleted. He must have gotten some heads up, or just maybe in general knows the protocols of how long it'd take them to destroy a lot of, like, the more sensitive stuff. So, I don't know. That was just kind of my thought process. But, at the same time all that's happening, Reddington is, Priya follows them to a particular address, and Reddington asks her for the address, and it's going to take a while for Reddington and a team to get there. So he asks Priya, which Priya's like, I steal things and not people. It's like, I need you to get Stepanov out of there, because whatever he tells Townsend is going to, the moment Townsend hears it, he's going to kill Elizabeth. And who knows what it was in that moment made her go like, fine. Like, even I was like, oh, like, you have no vested interest in this. Yeah, he's kind of your employee, but it's like, it's kind of like this isn't what you necessarily signed up for. So that's why I was kind of surprised that she decided to go along with it. So she sneaks in there, and obviously, like, Stepanov immediately recognizes Liz when he looks at her. It's like, Masha. And it's like, yeah, this is Masha. The fact of the matter is, her mom was on the run. It's like, because of you and Reddington being N13 and my family dying. So obviously, they're wanting answers. Liz goes and deals with the Priya thing while Townsend hears whatever it is that Yvonne has to say. Which outside, Priya's like, Liz, you got to get out of here. It's like, I'm actually here to help you. It's like, well, I thought that whole thing is like, yeah, Reddington set that up to get me on it, to get you inside the organization to kill Townsend. It's like, yes, whatever it is that your Stepanov tells him, it's going to make him turn on you and he will kill you. And in that moment, Liz is like, all right, let's get out of here. And then, Townsend stops him and it's like, where are you going? So he wants to deal with Priya, kills Liz's right-hand dude. And obviously, it's like, she's like, why are you looking at me like that? And for him, it's like, oh, like, what are you going to do with Priya? It's like, oh, not nearly as bad. Essentially, I'm going to do something a lot worse to you. It's like, yo, the flip of the switch like that was crazy, especially because, like, he was so defensive of her last episode. And nah, she can be trusted, because I guess he kind of warmed up to her a little bit, because having, like, this revenge plot, it's kind of been his alone. This vendetta has been his alone. Yeah, he's had his associates, but to have someone else just as driven as him, like clearing her mom's name, wanting to get revenge for him for killing her mom and everything. So all that, it's like, it's not the same pain, but someone else who's kind of felt similar pain at the hand of Raymond Reddington now that, Townsend knows the truth, well, quote unquote the truth. I think that's why he felt the kind of a kinship with Liz in that regard, because it's like, I finally have someone who's on the same path of vengeance like I am, And so he ends up drugging Liz and kind of knocking her out. But luckily, Reddington and the team shows up in time to rescue her. Obviously, some of Reddington's team gets put down. They rescue Liz, him, Priya, Chuck, and Reddington go around there where Stepanov is being held, and obviously Reddington's like, I'm not going to leave without him, so the armored vehicle blocks the path so they can't be followed. That's supposed to be the exit. So obviously, Townsend's making it clear, like, oh, he wants Elizabeth and Reddington. He's like, yeah, basically I had to watch what was most important. Me killed in front of me. Reddington, I'm going to do the same thing to you. I'm going to make you watch as I kill Elizabeth in front of you. And so it's like, and now Liz is still even trying to pump information from Stepanov, like, what did you tell him? It's like, you're my mom. You were like her friend. You were my grandfather's protege. Like, they would want me to know. It's like, and he's like, Stepanov is like, all your mom ever wanted to do was protect you. And it's like, what was that about? Which we'll get to later. So Reddington's like, just let him rest. We got to find a way out of this. So they got limited ammo, and it's like, well, how are we going to get out of here? So they ended up concocting like kind of a MacGyvering situation. Priya does in particular. That basically she takes a shot caller. They take some of like the IV liquid stuff and pour it out. So it's like, yeah, they're trying to electrocute the guards. Also got like 2 flash grenades. All right, time this out. Both entrances that's about to get flanked right now. We strike at the same time. So luckily they were able to get out of there. Sadly, it turns out like I guess during like some of the gunfire, Stepanov ended up getting shot. He's so cocked up on all those drugs that like he couldn't feel it anyway. So they got to deal with that. They got to get him out of here immediately. But sadly, just when they're about to roll out, the driver gets killed, and Liz is willing to sacrifice herself. She comes out with the flashbang and everything, but she doesn't have the time, because it's like Reddington's like, he's crazy, he's mad. You don't know what he'll do. It's like, because she's like, he wants me to suffer. There's no way he'll kill me right now. At the very least, he'll give Dembe time to go get in the front seat and drive off. Luckily, the FBI shows up in time, because after raiding the office, they end up seeing the footage and end up seeing, and luckily they were able to use satellites to track it. So they showed up in time. Obviously, Park points her gun at Elizabeth, and it's like, just drop everything. I thought Elizabeth was able to manage to kind of hop in the vehicle, but it's like, no, she kind of escapes on foot. Reddington and gets away. Obviously, the FBI team has no idea what went down, but obviously things have kind of turned out the way that this is probably like the worst case scenario. This is kind of pretty bad, luckily Stepanov is okay, just based on the doctor's oaths treating him, and Priya, Reddington's thanking her. It's like, you didn't even have to do that. Like, I asked you something that I shouldn't have asked you to do, and you did it. And she's like, whatever this is, I'm not sure about what I'm mixed up in now, but the fact is, I know it's so important to you that, he's important to you, and so is Liz. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, I guess she's kind of like a little bit of a Robin Hood, in the sense that maybe it's kind of like she has a little bit of a heart of gold. So, like, she's a very caring person, so... Maybe that's why she owed. He's like, yeah, like, call Marvin. He'll get you your payment. She's like, nah, I got everything I'm owed. And it's like, yeah, Townsend should be keeping everything, like, rich jewels like this in a safe. Because we find out from Townsend later on, it's like, 36 million in, like, jewels or whatever. Because he finds out about, like, that being gone. So... And, he's like, and ready to be like, I miss you already. And she's like, I know. And Freya, so it's like, I don't think this is the last we've seen of Freya. I think she's going to be an ally that Reddington is able to call on in the future, hopefully. I mean, to be fair, she's just as mixed up in this because, your boy Townsend's got hits out for everybody. For Liz, for Cooper, Wrestler, the whole FBI team, to be fair. So these are the people Liz cares about. So the people he cared about died. Elizabeth is the reason why that happened. We don't know why yet, but it's like, she burned my world to the ground, I'm gonna burn hers to the ground type of thing. And then she's gonna suffer. It might be that thing of, I'm gonna leave you alive to suffer just like me. And even if you come after me and kill me, it's not gonna fill that hole in your heart. I know, because, despite all this, he has to know on some level it's not going to satiate any of, like, what he's feeling. Like, he's not going to have, like, a peaceful night's sleep. Those nightmares, those hallucinations, like, all of that, like, those memories, are always going to flood to his mind, But, obviously, there's a conversation between Stepanov and Reddington, and it's like, Stepanov is like, basically, I failed you, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, you didn't fail. And he's like, yes, I did. For Reddington, it's like, no, if there's anything you failed at, it's me. Because everything that I am is because of you. So that's the only thing you should be focused on. And so Reddington leaves, telling, like, Chuck, hey, take very, very good care of him. And he confronts the FBI, and they're like, yeah, we're going to get him. It's like, yeah, if you move him, he's going to die. Well, we got a hospital and everything. It's like, no. And then Reddington just puts it out there. It's like, so you were working with Elizabeth, you decrypted the Russian knot and my messages and everything. And then, like, I love that, like, Park was saying something of the nature of, like, yeah, that you're working with that you're in 13, you're working with, like, that you're a Russian spy or something like that. And he was like, oh, if only you were as wise as you are aggressive. And kind of basically saying, like, yeah, kind of jumping these certain conclusions. So at the end of the day, you kind of know nothing. So this is the moment where you kind of be quiet, and you're like, whoa, that was harsh. It was almost like a father talking to the child. It's like, you don't know anything, so shut your damn mouth. And it's almost like that. She kind of quiets down. It's like, well, let's not forget he has dirt on you, so it kind of can't get too aggressive with Reddington. But also, it's like, it's like, I told you time and time again to drop this. I told you and Elizabeth to drop this. I told you to not keep digging, and lo and behold, what did you do? You kept digging, and now Townsend's coming after Elizabeth. Obviously, it's like, well, we're going to get the information, get to the bottom of this, find out what Stepanov knows, but by the time they get in there, he's already gone, so... And so, Reddington, it's like, yep, Townsend is turned on Elizabeth, but that also means he's coming after everyone that's important to me. And whether you believe it or not, Harold, that also includes you. So, the only way we're going to make it through this is together. I can do that. Can you? So that's once again, it goes back to my point of, like, Reddington doesn't say everything, but the fact is that, yes, there's omissions of truth, but he doesn't lie. Like, from the very beginning, he made it clear, stop digging. You're going to cause a lot of problems. And it turns out it's not just Stepanov that was also you need to watch out, because obviously Stepanov wants you dead at later points, but at earlier points, but it's also like, right, what he knows everything. And obviously Liz is still in the dark about what that is. You know, why all this is so important, why Reddington came out of the shadows to be in her life. Why? What is it that Stepanov told Townsend that set him off? Because obviously there are conversations about the archives. It's like, why did my... So, some thoughts that kind of go through my head. Many different thoughts. Some of them are just going to be BS. Some of them are just going to be stuff that people brought up in the past. Like, initially in my mind, at first I was like, okay. So he's like, I've been waiting 35 years to see her. So I was like, okay. At first I was like, could he be the real Raymond Reddington just having gotten plastic surgery? But I was like, no, there was the bones, the DNA, and the bullet. But it's like, well, to be fair, you could easily fake that. So it's like, once again, that's the thing of like, did Kate not know that was a fake body? Like, maybe it was meant to throw people off to make them think, oh, like to make everyone kind of think, oh, the real, like, anyone that got close enough to find out the truth would know, like, oh, the real Raymond Reddington is dead, and kind of leave it at that. But it's like the whole line of like, I've been waiting 35 years to see her. It makes me, that sounded like a parent. So that's why I was like, is that actually her actual dad? Like, could that, because obviously like this, everything that Reddington has built up has been for the purpose of protecting her. So it has to be a situation where it's like, like, she's the end result of all of this. Like, whatever their end game is, whatever they're planning, I think they're planning on striking a lot of people. Like, I think this is going to be a coordinated effort of, like, on a criminal level, striking blows to maybe, I don't know, like, something or someone, like, whether it's, like, hitting every nation or whatever, like, whatever project they've been working on for 30 years, it seems like a worldwide international thing of, like, maybe simultaneously hitting some critical points at the same time. For what end result, I don't know. Like I said, I'm just throwing out half-baked thoughts about it. Another thing that's crossing my mind is, like, the line of, your mother, all she ever wanted to do was protect you. So that's also, like, another thought that was, like, someone that theorized this years ago. You can actually find it on one of my videos when it's, like, come up about, like, oh, who's the real Reddington's identity at the time. It was like, oh, maybe he's Ilya Kozlov, obviously that not being the case, but like when the bones came up in season 5, it was kind of like that big question. And some of the theories were like, a theory that someone was wondering is, what if Reddington was actually Katerina, that he had that she had a sex change and became Raymond Reddington? There's a part of me that was like, well, we've already met Katerina, which someone had actually thrown out recently, like, what if that wasn't the real Katerina, you know? But that's also the thing of, like, if that wasn't a real Katerina, why would, like, Reddington act the way he did towards her? He would know that. Because I was about to say, not less Ivan's Katerina, like, having had the sex change, but it was like, no, I don't see that being the case, because his interactions with Katerina make it seem like, especially in moments that those private moments, so it's like, that has to be the real Katerina, because I feel like out of anyone, he'd be able to see and know that if that was the real her or not. I don't know. Another half-baked theory that's kind of crossing my mind of, like, why he'd want to kill Liz is, not Liz is the archive. Now, I don't know whether it's the thing of, like, man, because, like, to be fair, we know she's had part of her mind messed with her. It's like, right, she had the memories of her shooting her dad ripped out of her head. So it's like, who's to say, like, what other stuff hasn't, like, maybe she has some stuff implanted in her head. Maybe. I'm also thinking, like, well, what if in actuality it's, like, a thing of, like, I was about to start thinking, like, no, because I was about to say, like, what if she isn't Katerina's kid? What if she's some, like, high-level dignitary's kid or something like that? I don't know. That's why I'm like, that's why I'm saying, like, these are all, like, half-baked, like, theories. Like, I don't know. Because, like, for Liz to be the blunt of his rage, she would have to be the reason why his family died. So maybe she saw something. I don't know what the timeline is with his family dying. Well, no, because obviously Katerina hadn't been on a run yet at that point in time. So maybe Liz saw something as a child, because she was like, before Katerina left, she was like a 5-year-old or something. Maybe at that point, she was still like a little girl at the time. So maybe she saw something and kind of told the wrong person, and that's what led to it. So now Townsend knows, like, oh, you're responsible for my family because you were a little girl that ran your... Like, I don't know if that's it or something. This, whatever it is, she's the centerfold of everything. Not just his plan, but also what happened to Townsend. And I just don't know how that necessarily fit. Like, how Katerina fits into this, how Yvonne fits into it as well. Like, why he knows Liz. Like, it has to be like a family thing of, like, why he knows her. Like, there's something there, especially in the line of, I've been waiting 35 years, and these are the circumstances under which I see her. I don't know. Because whoever, like, Stepanov really is to Liz, I think that will give us a clue about Reddington's real identity. Because I think, I feel like this whole N13 thing wasn't really what it was. Like, it's kind of a thing of, like, yeah, let people think that. Once again, I said it time and time again, the N13 thing has been so many other people's conclusions. I felt like Stepanov kind of pushed that, but I guess he just keeps that conversation going and pretending like, oh, you're N13 because he needs people to believe him to be N13. Not unless he's actually N13, and maybe that's what this comes down to. That, because I was about to say, like, not unless Raymond Reddington isn't really... No, because they did get, like... Because the DNA thing... Oh, I'm trying to remember. Because they've had DNA tests and stuff like that done. I don't remember if they've ever tested Liz's blood against his. Did they? They probably did, and I'm just not remembering. Because I was about to say, not unless, like, Reddington, the real Raymond Reddington, isn't her dad. Not unless it's, like, Yvonne. Like, he was her closest friend and everything. So not unless he's actually the baby daddy, that Liz is actually his daughter, and so that maybe he's the real N13 and everything. Because part of me was also thinking, like, not unless, like, Liz is technically the real N13. I don't... Like I said, I'm throwing out wild, completely wrong theories, but it's just, like, just some of the stuff that's coming to my head right now. I just have no idea what to make of it. But like I said, at the end, like, we have Liz telling her team to go dark until she figures out more, and, you know, like I said earlier, Townsend putting a hit out on everybody. So it's like, yeah, we're all in his crosshairs now, so we need to work together. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, little light to the force, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.